Second, Commissioner Cava.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Commissioner Bovo for helping to make sure that we could design these corridors in a way that would support the SMART plan. I do have some questions for staff. First, I want to know how are we, well, just to clarify, this would, and I think you just clarified, but this will allow up to 64 units to the acre anywhere along the SMART corridors?
It would allow 60 units per acre
60.
in the area between urban centers that are not incorporated and not in the zoned urban center. So you would still have to, it would allow 60 units per acre, but basically it would still have to go through zoning. So it would have to go through that process. So as part of this, as we mentioned in the presentation, zoning needs to be in place by 2020, and then you would have applicate, and then, you know, if a project came in, it would have to go through the zoning process.
Okay. And there's no distinction made between a transit hub and the areas between transit hubs?
Well, I think this amendment itself addresses the area between the transit hubs. The transit hubs are anticipated to be in the urban centers. So this is to
But
address
not all
the
the
areas
transit
between.
hubs are in the urban centers, are they?
I think that this is a preliminary application. It would have to go through the rezoning. I think as the SMART plans are still going forward, so I think there's still some questions as to where those zoning station locations would be. Perhaps at that time, once a station location is identified, they might go through the zoning process as an urban center. So this basically, the intent of this was really to look at the corridors and the areas between the urban centers.
So how will we assure then that the density is transit supportive, that it does really relate to the transit?
I think the intention of the amendments, the amendment itself, and the 60 units per acre is intended to be transit supportive and to provide for transit supportive along that corridor. In terms of the station locations, there might indeed be higher densities through the zoned urban centers process. So this basically provides a threshold. You know, and as the SMART plans are adopted, you know, you might have further refinements, but this basically is kind of a broad brush threshold for these SMART plan corridors.
Okay.
And it will still have to be implemented through land development regulations, which have yet to be developed. Again, this just basically sets the stage to allow that process to move forward and for those to be developed.
And how does it apply to the cities? If you could
The
be
cities
more
are
specific.
accepted from the amendment, so we do have policies, general policies, encouraging the cities to look at their land use plans and to do transit supportive land uses, but it does not affect the cities.
So we don't really have any guarantee what the cities will do to be in conformity with this. Is that correct?
I think our jurisdiction, we can review their plans as they have plans coming in and make comments on it that way, which is a process we have in place now, but we really have no jurisdiction to control
Yeah.
their land use.
Okay. And did we already do analysis of the density along the corridors going through the cities, such as at the beach and Northeast Corridor, for example?
No.
Okay, what about community engagement? You know, these are, you know, while it's a broad plan, it is something that in the past, as Phil Maricini explained, when we did the urban centers, there was charrette and there was a lot of community engagement. Have we had any community engagement
I think at this
around
point-
this plan?
Yeah, I think at this point, this is the land use amendment, so this basically authorizes it to move forward. As the land development regulations are developed, or as you have a specific proposal, at that point, that would be where the rural community engagement would occur. You know, we had, you know, general engagement through the ERA process, through the Planners Technical Committee, some presentations with municipal representatives, but that level of, you know, charrette level, no, and that would not be appropriate at this point because there's not enough.
And also the cities. Did we have discussions with the cities about how it could apply or asking for their cooperation?
There's a Planners Technical Committee that's made up of planning staff from all the municipalities that meets once a month. I think there were at least one and perhaps two presentations given by our staff to that group, as well as information distributed through that group.
Have any of the cities agreed to mirror the density that is proposed?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. So again, you're going to have a process after this. Could you just describe a little bit more what that process will be to get to the details that will flesh out some of these questions?
I think what we say in here is that the land development regulations will be developed by 2020 in order to implement the provisions of this district. So, you know, it would be be through that process.
And,
Any other.
and that will include a public engagement process?
Yes, I'm sure. Yes, there's public engagement process, and the public engagement process would really happen as well when you have a specific proposal coming in to rezone to use that. That would be where you'd actually have a specific.
Well, I
proposal
guess
that
what
could be
I'm
looked at.
thinking of are those nuanced points, like what's the difference between a transportation hub and an area that might be served by transit, but it's not right at the hub. That obviously, I think, supports a different kind of density.
Right.
Other nuanced questions like that, I would hope would be part of the plan, and having public input on
Absolutely.
that would be useful. That's why I'm asking.
Certainly, yeah, and it would occur there, and it would also occur through the smart planning process that's ongoing for each of the 6 corridors. You know, there are specific studies happening, so there's a lot of charrettes and other outreach happening
But
there.
specifically on the land use, this is the part
Right.
that is relevant to communities that want to be able to weigh in. You know, we obviously are supporting transit-oriented development here. We're in favor of that, but, you know, not everything along the corridor is equal. Clearly, a hub can sustain more transit-oriented development than in between hubs.
Certainly.
What are the supports that we have to get people to the hubs? These are some of the points that are raised, and also, are there areas that are more appropriate for higher density than others? So I just want to be assured that the public is going to have an opportunity to weigh in on that as we go forward.
They certainly will, and we would certainly continue to work with the development services staff as this is moved forward through the land development regulations process.
Okay. All right. That's it for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm hearing, we're not encouraging development outside of the UDB, because we are going outside of the UDB on one of the corridors.
No, this amendment only affects land within the UDB, and in fact,
Okay, all right.
yes.